Oh, thanks to Kieran Tierney. We've talked about him and lots of positives for Arsenal. Maitland-Niles, for example, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. But what about overturning reputations in football? Because obviously some of the Arsenal players over the past few seasons have got an unwanted reputation. I mean, you were highlighting Mustafi before the show, Tony. David Luiz. We saw what happened when Luiz played against City not too long ago in the league. Well, obviously he came on then and got sent off. He didn't last very long on the pitch. How hard is it to overcome preconceptions about your ability? And I'm going to ask this to both of you because obviously, Tony, you've had your issues off the field. It's well documented. You've written a book about it. But how hard is it to actually overcome that? And it's the same thing for JMO because, well, there was that nickname, wasn't there? The Calamity James one, which was even brought up by your ex-England manager about 3 months ago, give or take, Fabio Capello. I mean, getting over these reputations which are given to you by the media and performing outside of that notion. Tony, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Yeah, I did donkey after I scored an own goal against Man United one day, but it just inspired me to do better, and I took it as a compliment. The more the fans were shouting at me, I kind of just rolled up my sleeves and I wanted to do better, and I wanted to prove them all wrong. So off the pitch was a different. I won't go there because there's too much in there. But actually on the pitch, you know, it inspired me to do better. And I've got to say, David Luiz today was absolutely phenomenal. And I've been very critical of him recently. And I think a lot of people have been critical of him recently. And so, you know, give credit where credit due. He had the bit between his teeth today, you know, and he wanted to prove everybody wrong because he would have. I don't know if there was a crowd in the audience. I don't know if that's helped him or not. I'm thinking it may have helped him because in recent weeks, I think the Arsenal crowd would have been really on his back, and I don't know how he would have reacted with that. But he certainly have reacted for me so well, and for this game in particular, I just thought he was awesome, and I'm going to be shouting from the top of the tree, top of the world, that he was outstanding today. Yeah, good performance.
What about yourself, JMO? I mean, the reputation that followed you throughout your career. I mean, Fabio Capello is still using it now. You retired 12 years ago, 10 years ago.
3 months ago, but yeah, I think the thing for me was that, and I have to apologise to the audience, because my problem was always not knowing why things weren't going right. Whereas Tony, you've alluded there, you know, if the fans, you'd sort of react to the fans, or your performances would be sort of fan. Mine was always about what I did and understanding why I did it. And at the time of the Calamity James, I didn't know what I was doing wrong, and no one was helping me. So I was sort of defeating myself to try and work out how the problem was going to be solved. The apology to the audience is because anyone who heard me at the beginning of the, I think it was at half time, Man City concede, they lose. I've got my notes here, and I hadn't included the Bournemouth game. So now I know that that's a problem. I'm not worried about it, whereas I would have worried about it not knowing about it, and people would be saying I was saying the wrong things. And it happened in football. So again, we're going back in the day, in the 90s. You might remember this, Tone. You know, you play a game, you might not watch a live game. It wasn't. Every game wasn't shown 3 or 4 times a week for you to catch stuff up. We didn't have video analysis of your own performances, most of the time, not even the opposition performance. So you would pick up a paper and it would tell you how you played. And depending on how the paper read it or wrote it, then if you didn't understand what you had done wrong, you could find yourself thinking that you were bad. Whereas now, half-time, guy shows you a clip, all right, oh, now I know it. And then you carry on with the game. It's a lot easier to deal with. So the tag, it annoyed me. I actually got over it by meeting a guy who I thought was a psychologist. Yeah, I said something to the club about needing to speak to someone. They arranged this guy to come around my house. We had 2 hours in the kitchen. After the conversation, I was like, oh, it makes sense. Right. And I was a different person from that moment. The name continued, which is annoying, as I said. The French, for some reason, that is my name. I don't have a name James, it's Calamity James. And I've laughed at times where they run down the street shouting Calamity James, not as an insult, but almost as a recognition of me as a person. And they want photographs and whatever else. And it's like, okay, well, if that's what you think my name is, you're not being horrible. That's what it is. You know, someone's got to be the villain in a sense. But like with Tony, not necessarily to the extent that Tony's done it, but I use all those experiences when I'm coaching or talking to other players, because they need to understand why things are happening, first and foremost. And then if there is a problem or a deficiency in performance, then at least they can deal with it. And it kind of gets them away from being targeted as you're saying there, like with a bad name or a bad reputation. Of course, there's stuff that people do which are going to give you reputations, modern and past, and future players will all suffer that at some stage. But there's an understanding of why it's happening and therefore how to deal with it. And, you know, I again, pat you on the back here, Tone, as not for just the stuff you're doing off the field, but you can't be a bad player for 30, 20, 25 years. It doesn't happen. You haven't got that many friends that will keep you in the game for that long. So, you know, you have to overcome these things. The reputation comes, you get over it. I was fortunate, 13 years with England, on and off, literally on and off. Fabio was the last one to sack me. Thanks. I was 40, nearly 40, but point being, over 13 years, I had some bad times and I had some very good ones, and I was always able to get back in there, get back in the saddle and give it another go. As I say, because primarily I understood what the problems were and I was able to overcome them.
Yeah, I'm sure you know I was referring to the interview which Fabio Capello gave about England's campaign in 2010, right?
I don't follow him on any social media platform, so...
But you didn't hear about it. He was still referring to you as that, and Joe Cole came out to defend you.
I heard about that. The interesting thing is I know enough about Fabio Capello to not be worried about it. If he thought I was that bad a goalkeeper, then he wouldn't have picked.
Yeah, certainly the case. And I want to add that you represented England in 2010, 22 years after you made your debut for Watford. So that's saying something about you overcoming any reputations that you might have had. And Tony, obviously, we know the success that you had with Arsenal for multiple generations.